Hello, and welcome to Brand Clarity by Visions to Images, where we focus on strategy and business development for entrepreneurs at all different levels through branding and digital marketing techniques. Susie Liberatore is the founder and art director of Visions to Images Creative Services, LLC. For the last decade, she has personally been instrumental in bridging gaps between the global digital market and neighborhood locations for some of the biggest brands around. Growth is possible for even a single location with the right professional branding techniques and Susie's signature strategies of Visions to Images. Stand out from your competitors and bring your visions to life while watching your sales skyrocket. Your host for this is Susie Liberatore, owner of Visions to Images.
Hello, everybody. Today on the podcast, I have Tracy Phillips, and she's an Emmy-nominated video pro. I'm super excited because that sounds like an amazing opportunity and sounds super fun. And videos are popular, so I'm super excited to have her on. Thank you for coming on.
I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
So tell us first a little bit about how you got started in this field.
Yeah, so I have been in the pro video world for 20 years. I started in documentaries and I started as a PA, which is a production assistant. I like to say I was the world's oldest PA because I had been through a number of careers and changed and was like, I really want to do film and that type of thing. So I got my teeth cut in documentaries and I really loved it. I loved interviewing people from like kids to CEOs to key opinion leaders and just really the story unraveling. And then about 7 years ago, I was introduced to the world of online marketing and realized that there was this need for people to learn video and that the people who were up on stage talking about video were not at all relating to the people in the audience. And they were saying, just do it, just make it, I was like, this is not a Nike commercial. Like, it's not that easy. And over the years, it's become easier and easier in technology, but not getting over the hurdles, the mental hurdles. And so my folks, most of the people I work with are 40 or older. Mm-hmm. Right? They embrace technology and they embrace that they need to be visible, but they are not so hip on showing up and dancing, singing, lip syncing. And I know Susie's going to laugh because we have many conversations about this. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it just doesn't feel genuine and it doesn't feel like it's moving your business forward, which it's probably not.
I agree. Yes, we just talked about this many times. So I think to that point, I'm not opposed to people being on TikTok or creating videos and stuff, but I think that it's one of those things where like we talked about like visibility, showing up, being the expert, storytelling, and having things convert, right? Like We don't need thousands of likes and comments and stuff if it's not going to convert and we're just sitting here pointing at things, lip syncing. Tell me more about like what that means to you.
Your visibility, I like to say your visibility equals your currency. And how visible you are absolutely relates to your income. And so when we think about visibility, I think about visibility about you showing up, and especially if you're the face of your brand, showing up, telling people who you are and that you're the best at what you do. And that is, again, staking your claim as the expert. And that is what translates into buyers. And that's what we're looking for. And so when I see all these posts and I have 1.3 thousand views on this, or someone hit 100,000, I want them to tell me how many sales they got from that video, because that is the metric that I use.
I'm like, yep.
Yeah. I think she just did like a preach there for a moment. Yes. And so I will step down off my soapbox in a moment, but for me, visibility is about, again, staking your claim as the expert, letting people know that you are there and that you have something to offer. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be highly produced. It simply has to be compelling, and you have to know who you're talking to.
I love that you said you have to know who you're talking to. I feel like that is another thing that I preach about every day, right? Like, who is your audience? Who are you talking to? Where are they? If we don't know those things, none of our marketing can work, period. So I love it. And like people come to me, well, I think I should be on TikTok. And I'm like, well, hold on. And I'm not bashing TikTok, but like, let's talk about, is your audience there? If your audience is there and you can build it, sure. Right. But if it's not, then let's focus on other areas. And I think that people think, oh, I'm doing videos, I need to be on TikTok. There's so much more that you can do with your videos, and you can do them on all these different platforms and repurpose them. That's my favorite part, is being able to repurpose them.
I call that deja video. Because, right, it's one video that you can use over and over again. And I love short form video because it's so easy to, and I watch my 11-year-old daughter just consume it on YouTube. She's not allowed on the TikTok. And so and I love the idea of short form videos leading to something else. And when we talk about knowing your audience, where are you leading them? Because so many times people are creating content for the sake of creating content. And one of my least favorite sayings is content is king. I do not think that is true. I think context is queen, because your context and who you're talking to is far more important than making content. Because if content were king, simply making content would bring you the dollars. And that is not how it works. You have to build a relationship. And why I love video is when we talk about like know, like, trust, that is how you can build your know, like, and trust very quickly. Are people going to know, like, and trust you? They might know you and maybe they'll even like you if you're dancing and pointing and lip syncing, but can they trust you? Right? Is that going to build the trust? And so really showing people, here's what I know, here's how I can help you, saying it. Right. It's so funny when people are like, well, what should my call to action be? What do you want people to do?
Yeah.
That's what your call to action is. Where do you want them to go? Tell them to do that. Yeah. So I am a big proponent of video, not for video's sake, but to grow your audience and really make a connection with them in a way that feels good to you.
You bring up something very interesting. And what I was thinking about when you were talking is, when we do videos online, building that trust, right? I mean, I've done this before where I'm like, oh my gosh, her videos or her posts and all of this resonates with me. And I keep going back and listening, going from there. Like if you can relate with somebody, I mean, even through content, through video, through emails, like whatever you're consuming, if you can relate to them and build that trust, it's going to go way longer. And I feel like, especially with videos, like if you keep seeing the same person over and over in your news feed, you're going to feel like you know that person.
Yes.
You're going to be like, oh, now I'm finally buying from her, right? It happens to us all the time. I mean, look at celebrities. I mean, I'm not a huge component of celebrities, but when something new comes out or something to that extent, we're like, oh, we want that. It's the same thing how you can build your brand.
Well, and it's the mirror neurons. I'm not going to like geek out on neuroscience with you, but when we see something that we like, the mirror neurons say, I want that too. And so if that's someone looking at me and saying, I want my videos to look like hers, or I want to show up like she shows up, like we want that. Or if someone's talking about, and this is, I talk about success stories a lot, like telling other people's success stories, the mirror neurons start firing. I want what she has. And that's what we're talking about. So many times I talk about creating your library of authority, because what you're talking about is true. When you're showing up and then people will look you up.
Yeah.
And then when they look you up, if you have like this library of authority, they're going to binge watch it, because binge watching is what we do, right? And so then you are the expert. And that is what I want for people, to have these libraries of authority. And so it's not creating so much video content. I have 3 months of video content, but I have 7 years of video content. I've talked about the same 3 months of content for 7 years, right? Like, it's because, and I keep going live and I keep doing it. And really part of it is, as you kind of mentioned, is like, oh, I like this person. Oh, I like this. You have to keep showing up. Right?
100%. Yeah. I agree.
You can't dabble in video. You can't dabble in video.
No.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that you talked about call to action, because that's one of my things all the time that I'm like, okay, that's great if you want to do this, but what's your call to action? Is it going to convert? Right. So what is your favorite call to action when it comes to videos?
It depends on the platform. So I'm so glad you asked this, because first of all, and I would like everybody to lean in and maybe even write this down, one call to action. So when I'm watching a video, and I'm sure you teach this too, and someone tells me to comment, and then they tell me to go here, and then they tell me something else, and then they're talking about their website, I'm like, because a confused mind says no. Right? I'm going to say no. I don't know what to do, depending on the platform. So, and depending on where you are you launching? Are you in your launch open cart? Well, the call to action is to go check out your sales page, right? Or get them to that page. If you're in a nurture part of your launch, right, where you're in between launches, then you may be just asking for a comment, but not, hey, if you like this video, comment, something very specific. And I find one of my favorite things to do is ask people's opinions. Everybody has them. They're like belly buttons, right? You're like, you need to By the way, everybody, Sue is laughing. Susie's laughing very hard right now, right? Like, because you need to very, very specifically say like, hey, how do you feel about this thing that you just talked about? And people will share their opinions.
Right. And I think that sometimes people, I have a couple other questions to ask you, but before we get off this one, I think sometimes people are scared to say, what's your opinion? Or they're scared of like social media people like coming on and bashing and whatever, all of these crazy things. But to that point, you can block, you can hide, you can reply professionally, right? Like there's all these things we can't be scared, and it happens all the time. Don't let that hold you back.
Well, and you can create your own safe space online. So like that's the thing is like, I always joke with people when they're like, oh, the Facebook is so like negative. And I was like, only if you're looking up negative things. Because if you're looking up kitty cats and rainbows and knitting, you're going to be shown kitty cats, rainbows, and knitting. You are in charge of your own algorithm. And so what you attract or what you're not is up to you. And like you said, you can block if you don't want Uncle Dave commenting. I blocked my own dad from not only my Facebook post, but from he was in my group. And I'm like, how the hell did he get in there? Because his comments were just not necessary. And they weren't mean. But they were just not helping. And so he didn't mean anything by them, but Harvey got blocked.
Hey there, I want to interrupt this episode with a quick message. If you're listening to this podcast episode and want to learn about branding your franchise or small business, then go to brandingbridge.com. That's branding-bridge.com.
So you can create your own safe space. And I get like, it's hard because people talk about camera confidence. It's a big buzzword, camera confidence. And the thing about camera confidence is it is not a pill that you take and then the next day you wake up and you're like, oh my God, this is it. I'm amazing on camera. Camera confidence is a muscle that you build. Camera confidence is a formula. I talk about my formula of commitment plus clarity plus consistency. That is how you get camera confidence. And like I said, you can't dabble, right? The only way to get good at video is to make videos. And then it's helpful if you have like a video pro in your world. I don't know, someone like me giving you feedback on those videos, right? And that's my world. If people come in and they know they need video, I don't need to start with the conversation of like, here's why video is really important. They know it's important. They simply want someone to tell them what to do, then do differently, then get better at it, right? And that's the thing about video is I still have it up there from 7 years ago. Live video was the brand new thing 7 years ago. And I avoided it. It's not appropriate to say like the plague anymore. But anyway, I avoided it like the plague. But then I couldn't because other people were showing up as the video pros. And I'm like, whoa, I have way more experience. And, my story is everybody else's story. But I was terrified to go live. Right. Even though I had all of this video experience, it was behind the camera and suddenly seeing my face and doing that, it was really terrifying. And I leave those videos up. I call it Scared Baby Tracy. I did it anyway. And I kept doing it. I showed up every week. I had like a lunch and learn on Thursdays at noon for the longest time, to the point where I would miss a Thursday and people would email me. And that's how I knew like
people are listening.
They're listening. Yeah. And I went from, back sweat to writing everything out to like, really being nervous about being live and being prepared to now when I go live, and it happened quickly, but now when I go live, I'm like, oh, shoot, I have to go live. Or even we show up today, I'm like, what shall we talk about today?
Yeah.
Right. And that's how confidence is built. It's built by doing it over and over and over again.
100%. I remember when Facebook Lives were a thing. I mean, they still probably are to some extent, but there's a lot more to it. But I remember back when, like years ago, when I was that person, I was like, oh, I don't want to do Facebook Live because you can't screw up. You can't do this, right?
Yeah.
And you can't look like you're reading notes. And now everybody's just like, it's changed so much. To that point, I would totally take those videos and put them on YouTube and repurpose them and all of that. Yeah. And they're still there. I mean, I don't know if they're still as relevant. I mean, it was talking about the same stuff, but it's probably much, like you said, like totally different, but still powerful. So,
well, and live videos, it's on a downswing, and I bet you it's going to come back because short videos, and here's when we talk about short video, when we talk about TikTok, it's a trend. It's a tactic. It's not a strategy. Learning how to get confident on video, using videos to attract an audience and doing it, strategically, that's a strategy. Right. And so that's really like, I feel like live video is going to come back, and live video is actually how I teach people to get good on video. And I have private groups and I have them go live. The reason is live video is so forgiving. When you think about pre-recording,
totally, yeah,
it's much easier. And it's not easier until you do it, because so there's so much fear built up. And then 10 out of 10 people will come into my world and they're like, oh my God, I just had to get over myself, right? Like once they figure out the button sequence and that like they didn't die, I can't tell you how many emails I get. They're like, I went live and I didn't die, right? Like, but the thing is, I know that feeling. I get it, but that is how you're going to get good, right? Like you're going to go live. And for me, it's so much easier. Like I just welcomed a bunch of people I had like a birthday bash sale. They were welcomed into my Facebook group. So much easier than writing a post. I just went live and welcomed everybody and let them know how to navigate. Like that to me, when that becomes like so much faster, and that's again what everybody says, they're like learning how to do live video helps them across the board with webinars, conference calls, all like it just kind of gives you this confidence to be a little more off the cuff. And that is more human. That's why people love live video.
So my last kind of question for you is, do we need to have professional videos, right? You're teaching all of these things. How can we make videos cost effective and good at the same time?
I love that you asked this question, because coming from the pro video world where like our budgets were ginormous, and like this is one of those funny things where people start to ask me specific tech questions. I'm like, I don't know, I'll go ask my guy about that, because I had crews of people helping me make these videos look amazing. And so you do not need professional video. There are different places and different spaces. So what I don't want people to hear is, oh, it needs to look great, because it doesn't at first. The content has to be great. Again, when we talk about strategy, right? Like what you are saying is far more important than how it looks. I record all of my course trainings, my homepage video, and any pre-recorded videos using Zoom. So I send it to my editor. My editor is not like, it's terrible quality. I mean, I have a lovely background. So I work on those things. We do talk about lighting. We do talk about those things, but those are things that once you're over yourself, then you can up level. So you can spend as much as you want on video, but it is not necessary. And again, your finger and your phone, I always say that, like, everybody's like, that sounds dirty. I'm like, I know, but you really just need your finger and your phone to get started with video, right? Like, so again, video for video's sake is not going to get you anywhere, but strategically creating videos to create a library of authority so that you're attracting the right type of person into your world can be done with your finger and your phone.
I love it. I need to get more on the bandwagon of videos. I've used to do a lot. I do more podcast stuff, but yeah, I need to get on it eventually. And I keep saying, oh, I'm going to do it. And then I'm like, I don't want to be that person on TikTok. I don't want to be that, like, so all those things.
Yeah. And you don't need to be. That's the thing. Like, you have to think about like, okay, how am I willing to show up?
Right.
But you do have to show up, and then coming up with a content plan. And again, I do this thing called the magical content wheel. And it all goes back to, like you said, the call to action, that like, does it make sense? Like, what am I talking about right now? Because you can't, like, I have many different offers. If I start like going live and I'm talking about each one differently each week, people are going to be very confused. I don't do that. I talk about one for a couple of weeks, then I move on.
Well, that's similar to me. I offer many services, right? But I can't sit here and bombard every video with 5 different things. They're going to be like, what? Like, it has to resonate with them.
One thing. And here I'm gonna leave your audience with one of my favorite inappropriate similes, because the question I get asked most, besides what's the best camera, which the answer is the one that you're going to use, which is probably your phone. My inappropriate simile for how long does my video need to be? Because there's all this, like, it should be this long or this long, or when you're making videos, your video is like a mini skirt. It needs to be short enough to keep me interested and long enough to cover the bare essentials. And all that means is there is no right or wrong length, because you can have a 6-minute video that is really short or seems really long. And it all has to do with your content and how you're showing up. So you can start showing up for just a couple minutes, talking about one thing, and then pointing people to where you want them to go. And that is going to grow your library of authority. And then from there, people are going to either pass you along, or they'll start watching, and then they're going to reach out to you. And that's the opportunities from video are endless. Podcasts,
I love it.
Engagements, books. I had a student who the 4 Dummies series reached out to her because she's in a very specific niche and she was the only one on video talking about it. And so the 4 Dummies was like, hey, we need a 4 Dummies for this. And so she ended up writing a book for them.
Wow.
Simply because she was on video saying like, hey, I know this.
Yeah. So where can people find you?
So I am videoscriptsuccess.com and Videoscript Success on Facebook, LinkedIn, Tracy Phillips. I think I'm at Videoscript Success on Instagram. I'm going to, like, a little full disclosure here. My VA completely does all of my Instagram, other than if I need to respond, it's me, but she'll tell me I need to respond.
Sure.
So Videoscript Success.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. This is so much fun.
Thank you, everybody, for listening in on today's Brand Clarity episode with Susie Liberatore. 2 things. First and foremost, please, if you liked this episode, please subscribe and leave some positive reviews. Also, don't forget to sign up for Stop Sending Your Customers to the Competition and get my insider secrets to compelling branding that converts. You can find that at branding-bridge.com. It's a free workbook for you to check out right now. All of the branding techniques and strategies that I use for my paying clients.